We're good.
Hello and welcome all into the MO podcast. You're here with me, Consummacious Han.
And me, Atreya.
And today we're going to be talking about Natalie Wood and what happened to her on that fateful night in 1981. So if you don't know who Natalie Wood is, she was Maria from West Side Story. She was also in Rebel Without a Cause. She was a child actress. She starred in 45 films. She started acting as a 4-year-old. She was in her first picture at 4. She had 20 of her films when she was a child, and she was nominated for 3 Academy Awards before the age of 25. So she was kind of a big deal. She also won 3 Golden Globes in her time. She was a natural actress. This is what all the producers and directors that she worked with. She was, when the part was right for her, she was scarily good at what she was doing. She did all her own dancing in West Side Story. She didn't do her own singing. That was done by someone from the Broadway show. She was very driven into acting. Maria, Natalie's mother, wanted to be a dancer and an actress when she was younger in Russia, and it never happened for her. They moved to Canada during the Bolshevik uprising, where her granddad was actually killed in the fighting there, and they moved to Canada. They worked there for a bit. Her father worked as a builder, I think, when they were there, but then they eventually moved down to California. And what happened was, on her first big break, let's say, her first film that she was in at 4 years old, Maria told Natalie to make the director fall in love with her, which is a bit of a weird thing to say to a 4-year-old when you're talking about a director who's a little bit older, let's say.
And you're expecting a 4-year-old to even understand what that even means.
But yeah, she actually did that. Made the director fall in love with her, and he kept in contact with the family for 2 years, and then asked them to come to LA for a screen test for another film. The father was against it. He didn't want to put all the eggs in one basket and risk it for a biscuit. But Maria just overrode him, told him, no, this is what we're going to do. I think the screen time, it was for a film called Happy Land, and the screen time, she only had 20 seconds of screen time in that film. So, I mean, maybe it says something of her acting ability if she made the director fall in love with her in
20 seconds.
In them 20 seconds. But, you know, it was kind of like Britain's Got Talent. You need to show what you've got in a minimum amount of time, and she did it.
I've actually watched a lot of interviews with Natalie Wood, and she just seems so lovely.
She does. She really does. So she was now in Hollywood, and she starred in Miracle on 34th Street, which is, again, a classic of that age. And she did a film called Green Promise when she was 10 years old, and she almost drowned on that filming a scene in there, and she actually broke a wrist during her almost drowning. And if you see pictures of her when she's older, she's always kind of got chunky bracelets on her left arm, and that's because part of the bone was protruding out of her hand, so she had that to cover it up, and I would assume not to ruin this perfect, beautiful facade that she had.
She had a fear of drowning from childhood, though, didn't she?
She did. Apparently, a gypsy told her mother that she was going to die in a drowning accident. She also told her that...
Dark water,
yeah. And she also told her that she was going to be a big success and she was going to be very famous. So both of them things came true.
Yeah, but do you not think if a fortune teller says to you that your kid is going to be a famous dancer, that the first thing you do as soon as you leave that fortune teller tent is you go, we're going to get you some dance lessons. You're kind of bringing that on yourself. This isn't fate, and this isn't fortune telling. This is persuasion.
Indeed. You just like forming someone's future there, aren't you? It's it's not. Oh, I've seen it. Yeah, well, you've seen it because you've like made it up. Like,
I guess it's a lot easier to have a 4-year-old walk into your gypsy tent and for you to go, oh, when you grow up, you are going to be a famous singer or something like that, as opposed to having like a 50-year-old woman come in and say to you, okay, so what do I do for a living? Well, you are a famous singer. Wrong. I'm a banker. It's a lot easier to do it when.
Indeed, and these gypsy fortune tellers never go, oh, she's going to grow up and she's going to be a painter and decorator in the Wolverhampton area.
This is very true. How devastated would you be as well if you were a mum and the fortune teller was like, yeah, she's going to work in B&Q.
You'd demand your pound back. I mean...
You would. She's going to work in B&Q, but she's going to be top of the food chain there. Like, it'll be worth it.
She'll be store manager, not like on checkouts, but...
Yeah.
She'll go to area meetings. You know, she'd be great. She won't be working in the garden.
You'd be devastated.
Section. Yeah. I mean, of course.
Can get these dancing lessons going.
Maybe she went to more than one gypsy fortune teller and then just came up with that when they got it right. Maybe the 3 before all went, she's not going to do anything. She's 4. What?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I like your answer best. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go with that one.
Famous. Yeah. But I read that she was so frightened of water that she was even frightened to wash her hair.
Now, I've read that as well, but I've seen a picture of her where she's in the sea. It's not dark water. And there's a scene in Brainstorm. I think the scene was she was supposed to be swimming as well, but they had to cut it out. But she's next to a pool where her son in the film is swimming. And she's not hesitant about going near it, if you know what I mean. Like, if I see a spider, I'm hesitant about going near it because I'm scared of them. So I don't know about deathly afraid. Oh, whether it was only dark water.
Well, you know what? If I had a massive fear of water, the last thing that I would consider doing is buying a yacht as well.
This is the most bizarre thing as well. And I mean, we'll get to it later. But the first night, she didn't stay on the boat. What actually happened on the 28th of November, what we actually know is Robert Wagner, who was her husband, Christopher Walken was there, and the captain, Dennis Davin, was there. So they were on a boat and they were having, I don't know if it was a good time, like we said. On the first night, Wagner and Natalie Wood had an argument and she decided to stay in the hotel. And the captain, Dennis Davin, took her to the hotel and apparently stayed in the same room as her.
I know that he considered himself a family friend and that he was very protective of her, but it's just a bit, to me, it says that he thought there was maybe a little leeway there to get in when Wagner wasn't around.
Indeed, and I think if you knew anything about her past and how the relationship operated from what I found out, I think maybe he was just thinking, anything could happen kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so on the second day, which was the 28th, she came back to the boat and she said, right, you know what, I'll just stay here until we leave. And her and Christopher Walken went drinking in... They had a few hours drinking until Wagner and Davin joined them. So they'd already started early. And as she was leaving, she was seen to stumble. So I think they had 2 bottles of wine, 2 bottles of champagne, and one of the men were drinking mimosas.
Chris.
I know.
It was Chris.
You just want it to be, don't you?
Yeah, it has to have been.
But I think it probably Wagner, because... well, when you look at what happens later, you'd be like, maybe. But so basically, what happened was they got back to the boat. They carried on drinking. There was an argument. Now, again, conflicting reports that I've read. It was either between Walken and Wagner or Wagner and Woods. Because I've heard, like, literally, I've read it was either to do with the fact that. So it was either to do with over politics, in which Wagner said there was no fight or anger, just a lot of words thrown around, like you would hear in most political discussions. Mm-hmm. The fact that Walken was offering her career advice, because Walken was very driven about being an actor, and he was sacrificing his personal life to try and get big roles and try and push himself forward. And another quote is, she's got everyone giving her career advice. Do you think she wants to hear it from you? Which is attributed to Wagner, what you were saying. Or the fact that Walken and Woods were flirting. And this quote is probably the best quote, and it's from Wagner to Walken, who said, "Are you trying to f*** my wife?"
If you were Christopher Walken, you'd be like, "Hey, dude, you invited me on this tiny yacht for the weekend."
Yeah, exactly. So it got a little bit heated, let us say. And then Woods retired to a cabin at 10:45 or around about that time. Apparently, Wagner and Walken continued to talk / argue, drink a little bit more, and then Walken retired. Wagner went to join Natalie in bed, and she was gone. So he went, "Oh, do you know what I'll do? I'll just go and chat to the captain for an hour and a half."
Hey, Dennis, have you seen Natalie anywhere? Like, dude, the boat is like 8 foot long. Where could she possibly be?
It's not the QE2, just a standard 2-berth. Rather than do anything productive, they didn't do anything, because Wagner said he didn't want to raise any suspicions, but he didn't turn the floodlights on or call the Coast Guard until 1:30.
Yeah, it's like, hey, my wife isn't in this yacht anywhere, and, she can't swim, and she's got a terrible fear of water. She could be out there drowning, but I don't want to disturb all these people that could be sleeping peacefully in these yachts surrounding us.
And that's another thing. How was there 2 boats within earshot of your boat? Do you know what? If they're in the harbour or the dock or whatever, and they're moored in berths, yeah, next to each other, but they're not. They're off the coast, and literally there was 2 other boats, because one of them heard, and this is the kicker here. One of them heard a woman shout, "Somebody please help me, I'm drowning," at 11:30 p.m.
And just thought, oh, those jokers.
And did nothing. They didn't even turn their own lights on and go, "We could have a look."
Do you think they were like in bed and they heard this almighty scream that woke them up, and they were just like, those inconsiderate bastards partying and joking around over there, trying to sleep over here?
So if you're in the water, in the sea, on a boat, and you hear somebody cry, "Somebody please help me, I'm drowning," you'd go, "Do you think we should check that out?" Or what? I mean, my side of the bed's all nice and warm now. I don't want it to get cold.
I think that's exactly what happened.
I mean, I wish they would have just said, "No, I didn't hear anything." And then you go, "Right, fine, fair enough, I can believe you if you're a heavy sleeper." But to actually hear it and go, "Nah, sorry."
Then I turned over and went back to sleep.
Yeah. So then the next day, Natalie is found floating in the water with the dinghy that was missing from the boat beached up on the shore. And she was pronounced dead, or the cause of death was drowning. So that is what we knew at the time, or in the past, in the days after the time. Obviously, as time has gone on, and a lot of this information has only recently just come out, to be honest with you, it gets a little bit, I don't know how to say, but it gets a little bit crazier now if we look at what's happened in the past to Natalie and her history, and maybe Wagner's history and then we'll talk about that. Do you want to start on that?
About the body.
About Natalie's history.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, so yeah, we know she had a controlling mother. I think it was a thing back in the day in Hollywood and in movies in general. I mean, it's all come out now that we know this sort of thing happened. But actresses were asked to do things that by directors or by male members of the industry that perhaps were not acceptable. And I think Natalie fell into that category where she was kind of led to do things just to get roles. There was talk about that she was sexually assaulted, that she was raped by a famous actor, singer. There's obviously no fact, proof or anything. Nobody was, trialed for it or anything. But she had an affair when she was fairly young. And I think she kind of grew up with this already troubled mentality. I mean, you wouldn't think it to look at her because, as I said, she just looks so nice. But I think there was a lot of dark. She had a history of like depression and paranoia and that kind of thing, and anxiety, which understandably so if you'd been raped at 16 by somebody really famous. And I think that it was. I think if she hadn't drowned on the boat, that she probably
it wouldn't have been natural causes, really, would it? Really,
yeah.
I mean that was kind of the way I read it, and as well, a lot of the research I did or I looked at, it kind of it annoyed me because it listed all of her maybe not all of them, but it gave a blow by blow of who she was with, when she was with them, And I'm just thinking, if like say, if you look at John Belushi when he died, and so I was looking at some of the research on that, it never once mentioned his lovers and who he'd been with. I just think it's just really, really symptomatic of the industry, and especially when you're a female in that industry, you have to be box-holed or pigeonholed into these are the people she was with, so maybe this will give you an idea of what she was like, kind of thing. And it's got it's no business of anyone. It's like lots of people do that. Just because they're not in the spotlight doesn't mean that you need to know about it. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's really. It
was a make or break for careers back then.
Exactly, and that's
for
it.
Women.
And that's the thing. And women back then, or young women back then, sex wasn't talked about around the house. It was. You know what I mean? You never got taught the facts of life. You learnt that on your wedding night, kind of thing. And to be thrust into this environment where men expect that of you if you want to get the role. It must be super, super daunting. I mean, like you say, she was apparently, I'm going to say apparently now because and use quote marks, but this is I've got this from the source is the Natalie Wood's biography by Suzanne Finstad from Vanity Fair article and the LA Mag article. Apparently she was pimped out to Frank Sinatra at age 15, and Frank turned round to her and said he was a great fan of hers since she starred in Miracle on 34th Street when she was 8 years old.
Oof.
So
creepy.
Yeah, I don't know what old Blue Eyes has got going on, but one of his, I don't want to say goombars, but one of his right-hand men for 15 years, who was a man called George Jacobs. He wrote a biography in 2010, I believe, and he had taken some quotes from there. Apparently she was pushed on Frank, who needed no pushing at all. And basically what happened was Frank would give her career advice, he'd play music for them, and he hit on the idea of going, you know what, I can give you singing lessons. And when she came back for the singing lessons, he sent all his associates out of the room because he didn't want them to be implicated in anything that went on. And that's from the book, so you can't see me. No, I'm not making it up. So basically, and as well, when she was in her mid-20s, she went on a couple of dates with a director called Henry Jaglom, and he confirmed that he was being surveilled by Sinatra's goons on these dates. Sinatra also wrote a letter to Dr. Thomas Noguchi, who did the autopsy on Natalie. He was the LA County coroner, and he was the inspiration for Quincy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I found that really interesting. But he done
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he done autopsies on Bobby Kennedy, Janis Joplin, Marilyn Monroe, John Belushi. So he was the coroner to the rich and famous kind of thing. But when he did this autopsy and he gave a press conference he questioned why the fact that she would go out, and if she was planning to go back to the hotel she was at, if she was planning to take the dinghy, why was she only in a night dress? And they were planning to perform a psychological autopsy on the fact of why she needed to remove herself from the presence of these people that she was with, if that's what was going through her mind. And Sinatra wrote a letter saying to the board of directors of the LA County Medical Board, saying coroners should be seen and not heard. They shouldn't be doing this for fame and glory. They should just be doing their job. And
wow.
Literally that was what got him fired, and that was the end of the autopsy, which is kind of unfortunate because there's indications that bruises on her wrists and her shins and her thighs indicated that they're indicative of someone who's being pushed or pulled away from something. So even if the theory was she was trying to tie up the dinghy, which was on the back of the boat, and it was making a noise, banging against it wasn't tied up properly, even if she went out to do that, these bruises would have been going the other way, kind of thing.
Yeah, there was theory that she had these bruises before she was even in the water. I don't necessarily think she was trying to remove herself from the situation. I kind of think it was just one of those, when you're drunk, you kind of do get more argumentative. And I don't think I don't know her, but for me, when I'm drunk, if I have had enough of an argument, I just go to bed. I don't go out of the house and just walk for miles and go. I just go to a different room. I don't try and, I don't endanger my life. I haven't got a suicide wish. So I kind of feel like maybe she knew that it was getting a bit heated and she went to the bedroom. What happened after that, I don't think she was trying to remove herself from the situation.
No,
but it's a mystery.
Yeah, I can't believe that because she was scantily dressed. She was just wearing. She would have put shoes on, or do you know what I mean? She would have put
jeans or something.
Yeah, she had a coat on, but she was only wearing a nightgown under that coat. And if you're checking into a hotel and you've just got a nightgown on, they're going to be going, yeah, all right, love. What's the crack? Do you know what I mean? So I don't think she was trying to get off the ship.
Yeah.
But
it sounds like maybe she went on deck to get some air or something and put a coat on because it was nippy.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could go for a cigarette, maybe. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? To clear her head. But as well, the boat, the Splendor, the pictures of it, not massive, as we were saying. So basically, if she's... I don't know how it's set up, obviously, but just thinking of a boat, she's got if she's gone to the bedroom... Surely that's off the dining room area. Do you know what I mean? And then she's got to walk past someone. And the captain, if he's in his little hut bit on the top, he would have seen her.
He would have seen her.
Out on the back. I mean, even if he's not really paying attention, but he would have noticed someone moving around on his boat, and if not, he's a crap captain. But
Well, this is the thing. Even if Wagner and Wood had gone out and they'd had this argument out on deck, and he pushed her into the water or something and she drowned, surely, as you say, the captain would have seen everything.
yeah. So
And he didn't.
No.
Or hear anything. Well, he heard them arguing, but that was it.
And yeah, he didn't.
Would you not hear somebody fall into the water?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And then someone screaming for help. If the people in the boat who are what, like however many feet away, 50 feet, 60 feet away, whatever it is, if they heard a woman shouting, how did he not?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, did they have noise cancelling headphones back then? I don't think so. I don't think so.
That captain is very suspicious for me.
Indeed, and
he
as well,
kept changing his story.
Yeah, he did, and he infamously got caught on camera when he was doing an interview on Geraldo. It wasn't the actual interview, but he was with his publicist, and they were talking about how much he was promoting his book. And they were talking about how much money they could make if he said certain things about that night, but didn't allude to anything. If he just said, this may have happened, but you'll have to buy the book.
Yeah.
And again, he didn't tell the police what happened at the time. He went back to change his story with the police. Yeah. So he's very...
He's made quite a lot of money out of this whole thing, hasn't he, as well? He's just a sleazy creep to me. I just don't like him at all. No. There is something suspicious, really, about him. I mean, apparently he was kept in Wagner's employ for the next couple of years after this happened. But he said, again, taking this with a pinch of salt, he said because he got a job with a studio. I don't know what the captain of a boat is doing, working in Hollywood studio, but whatever. He said he was taken to and from everywhere with one of Wagner's drivers, and at night there was electronic door locks, so he wasn't allowed to have the free movement he would have had. But again, he said this many years later when his book was out, and he was trying to make a bit of money. He didn't moan at the time. It was just when he's got something to sell. So either he made it up to embellish his book and make it more sellable because it was like utter shite, or it actually did happen to him, and maybe Robert Wagner was trying to keep him quiet. Maybe he knew that Dennis knew something that could get out and, could implicate Wagner, and maybe he was making sure, when they say, like, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, maybe it was that kind of deal.
Indeed. And I mean, Robert Wagner as well, he was, he wasn't a star as in the sense of Natalie Wood. He'd been in over 60 films, but he's more of a B picture, C picture kind of guy. You know his face when someone tells you who he is. You go, oh yeah, and then you forget him instantly, kind of thing.
Yes.
And he was married to Natalie twice. He married her in 57 and in 72.
Yeah.
So in 57, I think she was 18. He was 25.
Yeah, she first met him when she went out on a date with him for her 18th birthday.
Yes, which was...
How romantic.
I know, it was actually done by the studio as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just to try and get some heat for them. Not as... they weren't in a film together, but just individually having two Hollywood stars. It was kind of common practice.
PR.
Yeah. It was common practice back then for having two stars to go out with each other and to be kind of arranged on dates.
People do love celebrity hookups, though, let's face it.
That's it as well. I mean, they broke up in 61 from the first marriage, and it's very... I'm not going to say suspect, but we don't really know the reasons. One of the main reasons, and one of the reasons that gets thrown around, or what I've read, is that because they broke up because Woods had an affair with Warren Beatty when they were filming Splendor in the Grass, I think it was.
Yeah.
But Natalie never ever confirmed or denied this. They did have a relationship, her and Beatty, but it was after Wagner and her had separated, and she actually said, after the divorce, I wanted the Rock of Gibraltar, but I ended up with Mount Vesuvius. Yeah, they kind of had a relationship which they thought arguments and fights were passion, but they were just no, they never are. They're just no. So that was one of the reasons. Another reason, again from the Natalie Wood's biography, is because she walked in on Robert Wagner and their live-in butler in flagrante.
That just sounds so wrong to me. Although it does sound like something that number 2 would do. So I kind of, if I picture him in his number 2 get-up, flagellating some butler in a butler get-up, then yeah, it kind of works.
Yeah, I mean, this
trauma.
Yeah,
you'd be traumatized.
Indeed. This only comes from. Well, I mean, where does it come from? It comes from everything comes from secondhand sources, obviously. But this is Lana Woods, her sister, swears this happened. And who are we to disagree? There's family friends who swear this happened because in 1961 she left Wagner's house and turned up at their family house, and she was completely distressed. She didn't know what to do. No one could talk to her. She was crazy upset, obviously, as you would be, to be quite honest with you.
You would
I
be,
mean,
yeah.
I mean, so and she ended up. I mean, I don't want to say trying to commit suicide, but she had an overdose and was taken to hospital. And one of the family friends said she didn't really think it was a suicide. She just wanted to take some sleeping pills to go to sleep, and because she was so worked up about it, she just didn't realise how many she'd taken. And because she couldn't get to sleep, because she was worked up, she kept taking more and more, and then she was rushed to hospital.
She took Nembutal, didn't she? Which is
Yeah.
it's a bit touch and go, really. You don't mess around with Nembutal.
No. But
It's what killed War Mazza.
who?
Marilyn Monroe.
Oh yeah. Oh well. Quote marks killed her. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, this actually does have a little bit of credence. This argument that she did actually found him with, that this happened because Wagner had a living butler since at least 1953. He's quoted in articles saying, "This is my living butler," kind of thing. And Natalie really wanted to get rid of him when they got married. She just couldn't understand why he was there.
Well, what's good for Bruce Wayne's good for everybody else, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was the English man about the house, apparently. So, another interesting fact is that Wagner was actually engaged to Frank Sinatra's daughter. Yes. So in 1970, just before he got remarried to Natalie, because they got remarried in 72, he went out with her for like a year, 18 months kind of thing, and he was one of Sinatra's best friends as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. So there's a story about Frank that I came across, and he actually he threw Pat and Peter Lawford's clothes in the swimming pool. He tried to burn them, and then he threw them in the swimming pool because they refused to go to his ranch. Lawford was Bobby Kennedy and JFK's sister. And Peter Lawford was part of the Rat Pack, which was Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. Yeah, sorry.
Sammy Davis Jr. Yes.
Yes. So basically, how this story was that on New Year's Eve, Sinatra was out with Wagner and Natalie Woods, and they asked the Lawfords to join them at their table, and they were drinking and da-da-da-da. And Frank said, "Oh, well, let's go to my ranch." And it was a 2-hour drive away. And the ladies were tired. They were like, "Nah, I can't be bothered with that." So nobody actually wanted to tell him because he was a bit of a hothead. So Peter Lawford drew the short straw and said, "Frank, girls are tired. We want to go home. We'd love to come, but maybe another time." So Frank saw his ass. When he got back to his ranch, the Lawfords actually had a room there and had clothes there. He took the clothes out. He tried to set them on fire. Couldn't. Don't know how. So then he threw them in the pool. Because, yeah. And then the next day, Peter Lawford rang him, and Frank's assistant, because he was still in bed because he'd been up all night burning clothes, Frank's assistant went, "Oh, he's mad at you. Oh, do you know what he's done?" And yeah, so he had a bit of a temper, did Frank, but he was very integrated with Wagner and Natalie from day one.
Oh, this is painting Sinatra in such a different light for me now.
I know, and the fact that I'm not going to say pimped out because we've used that phrase, but the fact that Wagner was with Sinatra's daughter, and it's all like interrelated. But yeah, so I mean, it's there's a lot to this story than just she slips off a boat.
Chris Walken's very like kind of. It's just out of the loop in this, isn't he? It's like he was there, but nobody mentions him. No one's like, did Chris not do anything about the arguments? Did he not hear that splash when that giant parka she was wearing hit the water? Or did he not like I know there was a quote where he'd apparently said, don't come between a man and his wife when they're arguing, which is fair play. But like if it escalated to such a peak where somebody's life was in danger, you would think that he would get up. Like, maybe he was just absolutely like tanked and just passed out drunk and didn't hear any of it. But it just seems like he's got to have heard something.
Yeah, I mean that quote, that was from the first night on the boat where Natalie didn't stay on the boat, and the captain Davin was involved, and he said, "Shouldn't we intervene?" And Walkin said to him, "No, don't get involved in domestics." And it's never a true word said, I'll be honest. But yeah,
so he just didn't get involved the second night when he heard the argument.
Exactly, this is it. But this is where the inconsistency comes up with who was arguing with who. Was it the jealousy? Wagner had form for jealousy. He, in his autobiography, he said he waited outside a love rival's house with a loaded gun, just to see him. Luckily, he never saw him. So he was a jealous person. But I mean, to go with the Joey Tribbiani kind of thing, if there's heat on screen, there's no heat off screen kind of logic, then in Brainstorm it's quite a cute romantic relationship that they had, and there was heat, but you wouldn't think they're hooking up kind of thing to it. But yeah, Walkin just walks away scot-free from this, doesn't he?
Do you think maybe it was just banter between them as well?
I think it was. If you work with anyone for that amount of time, especially that they were filming on location, so they're not with their families, they're away from people. So when you do kind of get to know someone in that kind of situation, they default become your family.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, you do have quite a bit of banter, and if you've got jealousy issues and you're looking at that outside from the outside and you don't know what's going on because you're not watching them 24/7 a day, are you? You can kind of the green-eyed monster starts talking to you in your head and you start thinking the worst kind of thing, and then you just become your own worst enemy in that situation. But I mean, He to Chris Falken's credit, he answered all the police's questions. He wasn't a person of interest. He said he doesn't actually like talking about it, and he's only give 2 interviews about it, I believe. But in one of them, he said people that are looking for the truth about Natalie Woods will never accept that the truth has already been told. They're trying to look for something, and maybe, but when it happens like this, it's how much truth can you get from it when you've got people changing the story, things aren't being reported properly.
Yeah, I kind of I went into this fully thinking, like, oh, she was definitely murdered, and it's all very suspicious. And the more and more that I listen to the interviews and read all the facts and everything, it just seems to me like it's this. I mean, when somebody says a celebrity yacht, you think of this huge, impressive thing, and it wasn't. It was just slightly bigger than a fisherman's boat, and it just seems like such a small environment with only 4 people on there that unless 3 of the people were in it together, there's no way something malicious could have happened without somebody knowing.
That's it as well, and I mean the spotlight that's on Wagner and Walkin, because they are in the spotlight anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's very hard to kind of hide this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of them Hollywood things. It was an accident, something happened. Maybe Wagner and Woods had an argument and things got thrown or whatever. She went out to clear her head, slipped over the side, and then ended. And just because there's so many coincidences the world that they live in, everyone's kind of interconnected in it, I think people are just try to dig and find something that's not there. I mean, I think when it's a celebrity scandal, even if you're told the truth by the person that was there at the time, face to face, you'd go, no, something else happened. You want to believe that there's scandal involved, don't you, really?
Yeah. Although Robert Wagner didn't do himself any favours when he came up with his own conclusion as to what happened, and he was like, oh yeah, she used to hate that the dinghy used to bump off the side of the boat, it would keep her up, so I know what happened. She got out of bed and she tried to pull the dinghy closer to the boat, and then she slipped on the stairs, which are always slippy because they're always full of algae, and then she hit her head and landed in the water. And it's like, excuse me, this is like you've foreseen this.
Yeah, it's like when OJ wrote that book, what if I would have done it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes. It's like, that's really, really suspicious for you to give that really, really detailed description there of what happened.
You never know. Maybe Wagner's got gypsy blood and he foresaw it, and dark water.
Yeah, it's just a bit strange for him to.
It is as well, and the case was reopened in 2011, and since the case has been reopened, he's refused to speak to the police.
Yeah,
which is like, come on, why can you not remember your story? You've put it in your autobiography. You've told everyone a million times. Can you not just go down and go, right? Let's go over it one more time. This is what happened. But
yeah, it's a bit like. Things are a lot less easy to hide nowadays, aren't they? Like, what would have washed with the cops back then, it just does not anymore. And there's new things coming out all the time.
But imagine if you're a cop working on the case and Wagner goes, do you want to meet old Blue Eyes? He'll come round to your house and sing. And then they go, oh yeah, gee. And then they go, well, I didn't do anything, did I? Like a Jedi mind trick, like waving his hand. These are not these are not the captains you're looking for.
Yes, I mean even nowadays, if say you were a regular on the beat cop and some celebrity who'd potentially been involved in a murder scandal or something turned around and said to you, so can get Lady Gaga around to your house tonight, you'd still be like, nah, I'm good. Probably just gonna watch the telly and have a couple of cans. It's money or now these days.
That's it. You've got to set them up for life now, because maybe something happened in the interview room and changed everyone's mind. But I don't know. I genuinely, this one is a genuine mystery, because and the coincidences that they all know each other, and it's just and Chris Walken's involved, so yeah, that's a bit spicy as well.
That's what gets everybody as well. If people who aren't familiar with the case, and you're like, oh yeah, we're doing a podcast episode on the mysterious drowning of Natalie Wood, and they're like, oh right, okay, what's that all about? And you're like, well, so Chris Walken, and they're like, Chris Walken's involved. Oh my god! And it instantly gets everyone's attention.
That's it. It's like, Wagner who? Maria who? Unless you really like
Gypsy,
musicals.
what is that film?
Yeah, exactly. God damn, yeah. And then you go, Christopher Walken. You go, oh, wow, really?
Oh, did Christopher Walken murder somebody? No.
Proper star. You're like, wow.
Yeah. Yes, that is the one that gets everyone in. But what do you think happened? What do you think happened? Speculation.
For me, if going on everything that I've seen, heard, read, I would say it wasn't an accident. I would say it wasn't suicide. I would say, if I probably can, and well, I'm going to say it anyway, may edit this out later, but...
yes, but speculation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fine.
So maybe there was an argument, something happened, Natalie went out on deck to try and clear her head, Wagner followed her, and they were both drunk. There was a tussle, something happened, she went over the side, and Wagner was just, shit, what do I do? And he just couldn't get to her in time. Maybe the tide was heavy, maybe there were rip tides or whatever. He couldn't get to her in time, and he was just in a state of shock and didn't know what to do, and she ended up dead. And he kind of made good with everyone else on the boat. I just think Chris Walken was pissed and he was asleep, and Love and the Money weren't waking him up.
Definitely.
But I think the captain's dodgy. He's sus. He'd be first out the airlock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I it's an accident up to the point of she slipped and fell off the side of the boat. I don't think she was pushed. I don't think it was premeditated. I don't think he went out of the way to do her harm.
Yeah, I don't think he did anything deliberate either.
But I think the scandal that it would have caused and the damage it would have done to his career if the truth would have come out, or if that version of events that I've described would have come out, then it would have been irreparable. And to be honest with you, if you look at Wagner, he like, just being friends with Sinatra, he kind of got in with him, and he was really, really pally with him, and Frank would always believe him over everyone else. And it's kind of a thing with, for me anyway, with Wagner, it's not what he did, it's who he knew that kept him in the business. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm saying he's a standard actor that can that does standard movies, standard films and stuff. And he was in Heart to Heart. It was a TV series that ran for a couple of years on American TV, and it was good in the fact that it was a bit like Quincy, a bit like Ironside, your afternoon 70s kind of show. But I think he really wanted to be kind of Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
and he
wanted to be as big as Sinatra, didn't he?
Exactly, and he was just trying to hold on to other people's coattails to pull him up there. He just didn't have the talent to get there himself. And he didn't want to lose it. He didn't want to lose it all. It's just when you sat, all right, you weren't sat on top of the mountain, but you was very close to the top, and then thinking that it's all going to be pulled away just because of one act of of you being drunk, if that's the way he was looking at it, it's...
I think alcohol played a massive, massive part. I think they had a fight verbally. I think they were both absolutely wrecked and it turned physical. I think maybe they hit each other and that's where she got the gash on her cheek from. And then I think that she maybe got in the dinghy after she'd been, bashed up a little bit, got in the dinghy and tried to leave. And he just kind of went, oh, screw you, and disappeared back into the boat. She went out in the dinghy and I think she was pissed and she fell aboard, like she fell over the side, and because there was apparently like fingernail claw marks on the side of the dinghy, like she'd been trying to scramble back up. So I think that she was just drunk. She fell out of the dinghy and she was too far away by that point, so he didn't even know what had happened, and she drowned. That's what I think.
Yeah,
but it's just all like
conjecture, isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll never really know. Like, with Sinatra's gone, Walking won't talk about it. Andy's getting on there. Wagner's 89 now, so he'll take it to his grave. I doubt he's told anyone else about it. But yeah, I mean, it's just so sad. But in the same kind of way, like we said close to the beginning, she had not had a lot of issues, but a lot of stuff was forced upon her, which created these mental and physical scars. And she wasn't in a happy place.
No, she wasn't.
With herself. She may have been getting better. She did have therapy. I think she turned down a role because she didn't want to be away from her therapist for such a long period of time. So
good choice.
She was definitely trying to get better, but I just think of what happened when she was younger, when she was a teenager, when she was this young budding actress. I think it left a lot of damage on her.
Definitely.
And God rest her. She's in a better place now, really.
She is.
But I would advise everyone to watch West Side Story. That's the story of Natalie Wood. As tragic as it was and as intriguing as it is, we'll probably never know. And to be honest, like Christopher Walken says, we'll never know the truth, because even if we've been told the truth, we probably won't believe it because we love scandal. That has been the MO podcast with me, Contumacious Anne.
And me, Atreya. Bye.
Bye.